Hi friends, I'm here for an update on my double gauze hand quilted quilt. It's finished. I decided to do the binding in this light blue color, a wider binding on the back to cover up my knots, and a thinner binding on the front. And here's a couple of details of how I attach this binding. I cut a strip 4.5 inches wide, and I decided to stitch 1 1/4 inches from the edge of my quilt so that I would have a nice wide binding on the back to cover all my knots. So I used an erasable marker and I marked a 1 1/4 inch all the way along the strip. Raw edges are meeting right at the edge of the quilt, and this is just a single layer, and I stitched that on. And I'm using black thread. I'm using pearl cotton size 12, which is a little smaller than the pearl cotton size 8 that I've used to quilt this entire quilt. The reason I'm using black is because the other side of the quilt is a very dark navy blue, so any stitches on that side of the quilt won't be seen. The black blends in really well, and it won't interfere with my design of my arcs and rainbow shapes. Now I need to fold my binding to the other side and attach it. Here's another side that's already done. I'm going to do straight stitches all the way along to attach everything. So to do that, I need to get some clips and clip everything into place to make it easy to stitch. I've laid out my quilt. Now the dark side is up, and there's my binding. Fold it over. I haven't ironed it. This is the type of fabric that's so stretchy and wrinkly, and it actually doesn't help to iron it because it will just stretch it out of shape. So I'm doing this by hand. It's very freeform. It's very loose. It's not precise. That's part of why I like this process. It's very, very organic. So here's the binding rolled up and clipped in place, and now I just need to stitch it on. So here it is, stitched together. You can see I didn't do mitered corners. I did one side at a time, and I wasn't worried about having really beautiful mitered corners. Doing the binding this way made it easier for me. I just had to worry about one side at a time. I made sure to fold in my ends so that when I added another side, there weren't any raw edges. It just made it easier for me, and the end result is not quite as precise, not quite as sharp, but that's okay. I think it goes with the type of blanket that this is. The thing I would say about quilting with double gauze, it's not the easiest material to work with because it crinkles up so much and it's easy to stretch it out of shape. Very hard to cut it straight. Despite all these things, I love working with it. It's so soft in the hand to stitch. I enjoyed it so much. So I think I would make another quilt with this double gauze for sure. I have some more ideas about what I would do differently next time. But having said that, this was just a really enjoyable project from start to finish. Thank you for following along on my journey making this hand quilted double gauze quilt. Until next time, happy stitching.